Between watching streamers and my friends' playthroughs, I've noticed a lot of people are completely ignoring the item crafting function in Elden Ring. You can get a huge amount of power and utility through the crafting system, and even better, the best recipes can be crafted an unlimited number of times, so you don't have to hoard your resources like a lot of players tend to do with their single-use consumables. To unlock the crafting system, buy the crafting kit off of this merchant called Kale in the Church of Ella right at the start of the game. One major source of crafting recipes is going to be from merchants like Kale scattered throughout the world. I would recommend keeping a few rune items on you so you can always afford to buy the recipes as soon as you find these merchants. However, if you have no remorse, you can also just kill these guys, causing them to drop a bell bearing, which can be handed over to the twin maiden husks in the round table hold, conveniently allowing them to stock whatever the merchant you killed was selling. Now let's talk about a few specific recipes and their uses throughout the game. I want to start with what I usually consider a utility item that is disguised as a weapon. This is the bow or the crossbow. Most people look at the bow or the crossbow and they think that it's a weapon they can use to fight normal enemies and bosses. They try it out, realize the DPS sucks, then put it down and never look at it again. I suppose you could probably do decent damage with a bow as your primary weapon if you had high dexterity and upgraded the bow itself, but the most common uses of these weapons do not require you to upgrade them or to pick dexterity. In Elden Ring, every single build, from melee users to pure spellcasters, can get value out of these weapons. There are two main uses. First, you can use them as a simple ranged ping to get the attention of a single enemy without alerting the whole group, or to spoil the ambush of an enemy hiding up high on a wall or ceiling. The second major use of the bow or crossbow is to kill strong enemies without putting yourself at risk. Just craft yourself some projectiles that apply a status effect like poison, scarlet rot, or bleed. For the most part, these status effects are not affected by you or your weapon's actual stats, so even if the projectiles themselves only do 2 or 3 damage per hit, if they land, they apply the status effect to the target, and this makes them a great way to do damage. Bows and crossbows have really long range and can be shot through tight angles like doorways that big enemies can't fit through. Next up, a pure utility item, the Rainbow Stone. You can drop these on the ground to mark a location, which might come in handy in some cases, but the much better use for these is to test whether a fall will kill you. Simply drop one off the cliff in question, and if it shatters before reaching the ground, the fall will kill you. If it reaches the ground, the fall will not automatically kill you, although you might still take some damage from the fall, which can be mitigated with an item like the Soft Cotton, the Spell Assassin's Approach, or the Longtail Cat Talisman. But just to repeat, these items and spell will not help you if the drop is large enough that your Rainbow Stone shatters before reaching the ground. If the Rainbow Stone shatters, you will die. It's a nice way to test those prank messages surrounded by bloodstains that say try dropping down. Also, I won't say where, but there are some invisible walkways in this game, and a safer way to find them than jumping and seeing if you fall is to first test them with a Rainbow Stone. Third, we have all the pot items like the Fire Pot, Magic Pot, Lightning Pot, Volcano Pot, etc. In general, these are a quick, low commitment, easy way to do decent damage to whatever you're fighting. If you're a melee user, you'll know well that lots of bosses have big, dangerous AoE attacks, making it impossible to safely do damage while the boss is in that particular attack animation. Throwing a pot item is one way to keep doing damage without putting yourself at risk. For especially difficult or close fights, you can also use pot items to finish the enemy's last bit of HP without risking your life by getting up close. You can craft these throughout the game, and you'll generally find that pot recipes from later areas do more damage. Lots of these also have some stat scaling, so you could choose which to use that way, but also consider what enemy you're facing and what their resistances are. For example, tree-themed enemies seem to be weak against fire, and if you pay attention to the cutscene right before fighting Radon, you'll get a major clue that he is weak to a particular damage type. Next, specifically for melee users, we have the various greases, like the fire grease, magic grease, blood grease, rot grease, etc. These add either additional damage to your weapon, or they add status effect buildup on hit, such as bleeding or scarlet rot. In most cases, any grease will increase your damage compared to using no grease, so if you're stuck on a tough fight, having one of these ready to use can give you the edge you need to win. It takes a moment to apply, so in a tough fight, I like to apply before walking through the fog gate, and if the enemy has a lengthy transition into a second phase, that's often a good chance to reapply the grease because these only last 60 seconds. And just like with the pot items, if you know that a particular enemy is weak to a particular damage type, this can give you a much bigger advantage. One important thing to note about the greases is that they can only be applied to weapons that do a single type of physical damage. If the weapon also does magic damage, holy damage, fire damage, etc., you won't be able to grease it up. Finally, let me say thanks for watching. If you want to engage more with our community, you can join our Discord, which is linked below. We're always happy to discuss Elden Ring, answer specific questions, or help out with bosses and the like. Let me also give you our group password, which is in all lowercase Almanac. Adding this will prioritize showing you the bloodstains, messages, summon signs, and other multiplayer content that comes from other people using the same group password in our community. As an added bonus, every time someone with this password defeats a shard bearer or becomes Elden Lord, everybody else with the password gets a temporary 5% bonus to their rune acquisition. I'd love for you to join the Almanac Club. Again, thank you for watching, and please feel free to join up with these communities, especially the Almanac community, so we can find evidence of each other in the game. Have a good one, and happy crafting!